You finally shut up, didn't you? You finally closed your mouth, sat back, and stopped playing their damn game. And now they're the ones making noise, panicked, messy, loud. You ain't saying a word, but somehow they're hearing everything. You're not showing up, not calling, not texting, not even blinking at them. And that is what's cutting the deepest. You see, silence ain't empty. It ain't weak. And it sure as hell ain't surrender. Silence, my friend, is the sharpest weapon a broken soul can pull from its ribcage. And I know you're broken. Oh, I know. You were loud once, weren't you? You explained. You begged. You tried to make them see you. Tried to make them understand your love, your loyalty, your worth. But they didn't. Nah, they ignored it. Took it for granted. Used it like a doormat and smiled while doing it. Thought you'd never walk away. Thought your silence would never come. But then you stopped talking. That, right there, was your turning point. That's when everything started to shift. When you went ghost, they finally felt your presence. Ain't it funny? When you were screaming, they covered their ears. When you were giving, they kept taking. But the moment you went silent, the moment you became unavailable, you became unforgettable. See? Silence. Real silence. It ain't about ignoring them. It's about killing the noise. Shutting the doors they left wide open. And suddenly, they don't hear your voice anymore, but they feel your absence like a knife in the gut. That's what they don't teach you. You grow up thinking words fix things. That if you just talk enough, love enough, prove enough, people will treat you right. But the truth? The ones who needed your voice the most were the first to abuse it. And now they're stuck with the aftermath of their own cruelty. You didn't disappear. No. You evolved. You became what they thought you'd never be. Silent. And that silence is doing more to them than any scream ever could. You want to know what your silence is doing to them? You want to know why they keep checking your last scene? Why they scroll your page at 3 a.m.? Why they ask mutuals about you like they didn't ghost you themselves? It's 'cause your silence is haunting them. Every second of it. It's rewriting your value in their heads. It's reminding them they lost you. And worse, it's showing them they'll never get that version of you again. The kind, soft, forgiving version, dead. You buried him with your voice. So sit down. Sit real still. Let me lay it out for you. 10 truths, 10 brutal lessons, 10 things your silence is doing to them right now while you're sitting there thinking maybe they forgot you. Newsflash, they didn't. They're living in the prison of your absence, and I'm going to explain why. Not with flowers, not with quotes, with scars, with logic, with pain, the raw kind, the real kind. So wipe that doubt off your face. You're not weak for going quiet. You're dangerous now, because they don't know what you're thinking. They don't know what's next. And that is the most powerful position you've ever held. You gave them the soundtrack to your soul, and now you gave them nothing, and they're going crazy trying to hear it again. First thing your silence is doing to them, it's making them question everything they did to you. You think they don't care, huh? That they just moved on like nothing happened? That the moment you went quiet, they tossed your name in the trash and walked off into the sunset? That's the lie you keep feeding yourself so you don't feel the sting, so you don't break down again at night when no one's watching. But the truth, the brutal, skin-peeling truth, your silence is driving them insane. Not because they miss you. They don't miss who you were. Not yet. They're not crying over the version they disrespected. They're terrified of the version you became. The one who doesn't need to explain anymore. The one who walked away without a speech, without drama, without begging. You disappeared like a shadow when the lights went out. And now, they're stuck in the dark, trying to piece together the last thing they saw. They start replaying moments in their head like it's some crime scene. Did I go too far that day? Why didn't he answer when I texted last? Maybe if I hadn't said that. Oh, now they're detectives. Now they want to investigate. But where were the questions when they had your time? Where was the self-awareness when you were draining yourself dry trying to keep the bond alive? You see, people don't notice what they're doing until the consequence slaps them blind. And silence? Silence is the loudest slap you'll ever throw. It doesn't hit once and fade. It lingers. It echoes. It forces them to sit in the aftermath of every careless word, every ignored call, every time they chose someone else over you. And here's the twist. They never expected it from you. You were the one who stayed. The one who forgave. The one who always came back after getting cut up again and again. So now that you've gone cold, now that you've cut the signal, they're confused, panicked. They thought they had you wrapped, that you'd always be reachable, always just a message away. But now you're the ghost in their guilt, the ache in their peace. And their mind, oh boy, their mind's on fire. They go to bed wondering what you're thinking. They wake up hoping for a sign, a story, a post, anything. And when they get nothing, that's when the real torture begins. Let's get this clear. It's not love that's haunting them yet. Number that comes later. Right now, it's confusion, regret, doubt. They're stuck in a loop of what-ifs, and you're the director of that mental horror show. That's what your silence is doing. It's turning every memory into a riddle they can't solve, every laugh into a question mark, every hug into a crime scene. And the worst part? They know it's their fault. They know they caused this, that this silence wasn't born from pettiness. It was born from exhaustion, from watching them ignore everything real you gave and treat it like it was disposable. Now they're sitting in the mess, scratching their heads, looking around at their new little distractions, their new conversations, their new people, and none of it hits the same. Because you were real, you were solid. And they didn't just lose a person, they lost their anchor, and now they're floating in silence, in a storm they created, wondering how something so loud, so warm, so present, turned into absolute silence. That's lesson one. You didn't need revenge. You didn't need to scream. You just needed to stop responding. And that silence is burning holes in their ego right now. Second thing, it's exposing how loud your presence really was. You know what's funny? When you were around, they acted like you were replaceable. Like your time, your words, your loyalty. It was just background noise. Something soft, something constant, something they could mute whenever they felt like it. They got used to you being there, to the check-ins, to the support, to the way you listened without needing much in return. You became that silent safety net, that unshakable presence, that comfort. And the mistake they made? Oh, it was massive. They thought that comfort meant weakness, that your presence wasn't power. But now that you're gone, now that the calls don't come, now that your voice doesn't echo in their life anymore, they're starting to hear how loud your presence actually was. See, silence doesn't just leave a void. It amplifies what used to fill the space. And you were everything in that space. Your energy, your words, the way you made them feel like they mattered, even when they didn't earn it. They took that for granted. They thought that version of you would stay forever, that you'd always be the one reaching out first, always asking if they were okay, always showing up even when you were hurting yourself. But now, in the silence, they feel it. The absence of your voice has weight. It presses down on their chest when they laugh and don't hear yours with it, when they scroll through their feed and don't see your name, when something reminds them of you and they reach for their phone, only to remember you're not coming back. And that's what's killing them quietly. The realization that you weren't just part of the background. You were the heartbeat, the tone, the rhythm that made their world feel a little more alive. And now, everything's quiet. Too quiet. They talk to new people, sure. They post their fake laughs. They pretend to be unbothered. But deep down, they're scanning the room for a presence that's no longer there. They're laughing with people who don't get them like you did. Sitting in rooms full of noise, but feeling more alone than they ever did when it was just you and them. Because you didn't just exist in their life, you added meaning to it. Your energy, your patience, your presence, it was a drug. And now they're off it, cold turkey. And the withdrawal is real. That's why they're restless. That's why they can't focus. That's why they're on your page without liking anything. That's why they ask about you indirectly, hoping someone slips your name into a sentence like a spark in the dark. They miss the presence they never acknowledged until it vanished. And you don't have to say a damn thing. That's the beauty of it. You're doing more damage in silence than you ever did in explanation. Because your absence is a mirror, and what it's reflecting back to them is brutal. How little they gave, how much they took, and how they're now stuck in a world that used to have you in it, but doesn't anymore. That's power, my friend. Not yelling, not arguing, not begging, leaving, disappearing, going silent, and letting your presence scream louder in absence than it ever did in person. And believe me, they hear it now, every damn day. Third thing, it's exposing their own emptiness. They thought silence meant you were done talking. Nah. Silence means you're finally letting them talk to themselves. And trust me, they don't like the sound of their own voice. Not when it's echoing through that empty space you used to fill. You see, when you were there, they had someone to absorb their chaos, someone to project onto, someone to make feel small so they could feel big. They used your patience as a punching bag, your love as a mirror to feel worthy. And now that you're gone, now that you're not there to validate them, to make them feel seen, to hold up that fragile ego of theirs, they're collapsing from the inside out. Because when you go quiet, people are forced to face themselves. No distractions, no more hiding behind your reactions, no more testing your limits just to see how much you'd tolerate. Now, it's just them and the silence. And for the first time, they're seeing themselves clearly. The lies they told, the games they played, the way they manipulated your heart like it was some toy they could smash and reassemble on a whim. And now with you out of the picture, there's nothing to distract from that reflection. It's raw, it's ugly, it's truthful, and they hate it. Because deep down, they know they were the problem. They were the ones who broke what was whole, who turned gold into dust. And now the silence is a spotlight. It shines on every crack in their character. Every moment they pretended not to care. Every time they laughed at your pain. And with every quiet day that passes, that spotlight gets hotter. And what's underneath it? Rot, weakness, insecurity. The very things they projected onto you are now screaming at them from their own subconscious. They try to fill the void, sure. New faces, new voices, new distractions. But it's all noise, temporary, hollow, because none of it matches your depth. No one listens like you did. No one sees through them the way you did. No one accepts their demons and stays. You did. You were there and you were real. And they fumbled it like it meant nothing. So now they chase attention. But what they really crave? Connection. And guess what? They can't find it. Not like you gave it. Your silence is making them realize something brutal. They were never whole to begin with. They used you like a patch for their wounds, a balm for their ego. And now they're bleeding again because you're not there to stitch the pieces together anymore. And the worst part? The silence is teaching them that it wasn't you who was broken. It was them. You just loved too loudly, and they weren't ready to receive it. So they sabotaged it, pushed it away, and now that silence is circling back like karma wrapped in a straitjacket. That's the thing people don't understand. When you go quiet, it doesn't mean you gave up. It means you let the truth do the talking. And truth hurts. It whispers louder than screams. It creeps in during the quiet moments, and it cuts deep. That's what your silence is doing. It's revealing the void they tried to hide. It's making them sit with their reflection and see it all, unfiltered, undeniable. So let them sit. Let them suffocate in the quiet. Don't break it. Don't explain. You already did enough. Now let the silence teach them what your words never could. Fourth thing. It's making them fear your comeback. You think they're resting easy? That just because they're not texting, not calling, not publicly crawling back, they've moved on? You think silence means peace for them? No, no. Silence for them is paranoia, because they don't know what you're planning. And trust me, people fear what they can't predict. You used to be predictable, didn't you? Always the first to reach out. Always the one to forgive. You showed your hand too early. Too often. That was your mistake. You made them feel like no matter what they did, they still had access to you. Like you were some open book with no last page. But now they're staring at a closed cover, and the story stopped mid-sentence. No closure, no explosion, just quiet. And that quiet, it's haunting them. Because the scariest kind of change is the one that happens in silence. That kind of shift doesn't scream, it simmers. And the longer it stays quiet, the more dangerous it feels. Your silence isn't just absence. It's suspense. It's mystery. It's the feeling of standing on a cliff edge, blindfolded, not knowing if there's ground beneath the next step. That's what your silence is doing. It's making them wait, making them wonder if you're gone for good, or if you're coming back unrecognizable. That's the fear now. Not that they lost you, but that they turned you into something else. That you evolved into the version of you that doesn't tolerate disrespect, that doesn't offer explanations, that doesn't need anyone. Because that version is lethal. That version doesn't chase, doesn't beg, doesn't wait around for breadcrumbs, and they know it. Deep down they feel it, that if you ever come back, you'll come back different, colder, sharper, smarter, and the most dangerous kind of person is the one who knows their worth in silence You've become unpredictable now. That scares them, because now every move they make, they wonder if you're watching. Not in a petty way, but in a calculated, strategic, cold-blooded way. You don't talk. You don't react. And that lack of reaction, that's power. That silence makes them imagine a million scenarios. What you're thinking, what you're doing, who you're becoming, and all those questions lead to one fear. What if you're leveling up without them? What if you're building in silence, healing in silence, preparing to show the world who they lost, without saying a word? And that's the scariest revenge, not hurting them, not exposing them, not clapping back, but evolving in silence, making your moves in the dark, and letting the results scream for you. Your silence is telling them, you don't get to see this version of me, you're not invited to the comeback. And the ones who doubted you, the ones who broke you, used you, laughed at your pain, they're going to feel it, not through words, but through absence, through success, through your peace, through your growth. So keep quiet. Let them wonder. Let them fear the version of you they can't see anymore. Because that fear, that's their punishment. You're no longer the predictable, soft, forgiving version. That person died the moment they played with your kindness like it was weakness. Now, you're the ghost of their guilt, the silence of their shame. And every day you stay quiet, you build more power in their mind. Let them lose sleep. Let them doubt. Let your silence be the reminder that the most dangerous one is the one who doesn't announce the comeback. Fifth thing, your silence is doing to them. It's turning their confidence into insecurity. Oh, how confident they were when they walked away. How loud they were when they thought they had the upper hand. You remember, don't you? The smirks, the cold replies, the way they acted like losing you meant gaining freedom. Like you were a burden they were glad to drop. They strutted off like they'd just leveled up, convinced you'd chase, that you'd fold, that you'd come crawling with a fresh apology and another round of loyalty. They thought silence meant you were weak, that you didn't have the words to fight back, that you were too broken to respond. But then the silence stayed, and something shifted, slowly at first, then like a storm building over still water. Because silence does that. It creates reflection. And now, that loud confidence, that inflated ego, it's crumbling, collapsing in on itself like a house of mirrors in a fire. Every day they don't hear from you. Every hour they don't get a sign that you're still waiting, still hurting, still needing them. Is a day their illusion dies. And in its place, doubt. Heavy, ugly, sharp-edged doubt. Maybe I wasn't that important to him. What if he's already moved on? Was I the problem the whole time? That voice inside their head, the one they buried under fake confidence and shallow validation, is screaming now. You silenced them outwardly, but you amplified the storm inside them. Because silence forces people to confront what they tried to avoid. And now, with no words to distract, no attention to feed off, no validation to lean on, they're sitting alone with their insecurity, and it's eating them alive. They used to look in the mirror and see power. Now they see loss. They used to be sure of their control over you. Now they wonder if they ever had it. Your silence didn't just unplug their ego, it shattered it. Because silence, real silence, isn't about avoiding a fight. It's about letting your absence scream louder than your defense. And that's what's happening. You're not around to argue, to explain, to reassure. And without that feedback loop, they're spiraling. And let's be real. They thought they were the prize, that by losing you, you'd collapse and they'd rise. But now, they're starting to realize maybe they were never the valuable one. Maybe they lost someone who would have stood by them through hell. Someone who listened, supported, gave without expecting. And what did they give back? Attitude, silence, disrespect. They played the game, thinking you were the desperate one. Now they're realizing you were the one holding it all together. And here's the kicker. They can't show it. Their pride won't let them. So they wear the mask, the posts, the fake smiles, the casual, I'm doing great updates. But deep down, they're crumbling. They can't admit to anyone that they're missing what they discarded. Can't say out loud that your silence is making them feel small. So they pretend, but their confidence? Gone. Insecurity is the new king of the throne. And your silence? It's the crown sitting on top. That's what you did by going quiet. You didn't just walk away. You flipped the script, turned the spotlight on their flaws, their mistakes. And now, every second they don't hear from you, they're hearing everything else. Every insult, every betrayal, every time they made you feel like you weren't enough. And it's all coming back on them. You don't have to destroy their pride. They're doing it themselves. All you did was go silent. And that's what makes it poetic. You became the storm by becoming still. Sixth thing, it's making them realize they were never in control. Control. That's what it was always about, wasn't it? They wanted to feel like they had the leash, like you danced when they snapped, stayed when they pushed, folded when they got cold. You were their emotional puppet until you weren't, until the messages stopped, until the calls went unanswered, until you went silent. And that right there is when everything flipped. Because now they're starting to realize something that eats at their pride like acid on skin. They never had control. Not really. They just mistook your kindness for submission. They confused your loyalty with obedience. And they assumed that your emotional investment was their power over you. But they were wrong. So, very wrong. See, when you were available, when you were open and raw and responsive, They felt dominant, like they were the center of your universe. But what they didn't understand was this: you allowed them that space. You chose to be present. You chose to give access. And now that you've taken it back, now that your silence has closed the gates, they're standing outside with nothing but their ego in pieces. And they're realizing it was never their show. You were never theirs to control. You simply gave too much until you didn't. And that absence, that sudden drop-off of attention, it's shaking them. Because silence doesn't just create distance, it creates exposure. It exposes how much of their identity was built on the illusion of power over you. They thought you couldn't live without them, but now you are, quietly, stronger. And that realization is brutal. It's like watching a glass castle crumble in slow motion, because everything they believed about their grip on you, gone. You didn't need to fight. You didn't need to scream. You just stopped showing up. And that's when the truth smacked them straight across the face. They were never the one in control. You were. And the irony? They can't do a damn thing about it now. They can't reach out without looking desperate. They can't ask what happened without admitting guilt. And they definitely can't beg for attention without revealing the truth. They're powerless without your response. That's what silence does. It doesn't just remove your voice. It removes their illusion of dominance. And when that illusion shatters, all that's left is insecurity wrapped in confusion. They're pacing mentally, trying to figure out where it all went wrong, trying to find the exact moment the strings slipped from their hands. And the answer? It was never in their hands to begin with. You let them feel powerful because you cared. You loved them into thinking they mattered more than they did. And now your silence has stripped